a very positive. That for me is a very positive move. But all in all, we need to come together and advocate forcefully for gender inclusion. Of course, I mean, for only God knows when the affirmative action, law would come to pass. For me, this should be our selling point. That is where we ought to be advocating very strongly for the women. Because at the end of the day, if a particular law is not passed to be able to ensure, women participation and all that, for me, we are only kidding ourselves, and and we may not be able to achieve the needed, what is it called, aims and objectives that we want to achieve. Of course, you know, certain, how shall I say, I think we've made reference to the, what is it called, the first past the post and that of proportional representation, looking at other, what is it called, jurisdictions, whatever is happening. For me, if we can have a hybrid within the Ghanaian context to see how best we can feature such, such a narrative into our into our legal books, to see how best we'll be able to ensure, if you like, some form of proportional representation of a sort. Of course, saying this, all these things, I think that at a point, in one way or the other, finds expression in what is it called? In what called the affirmative action bill. So for me, what we need to do very strongly is the advocacy. Shamima also made mention of a that I also want to hammer on. That is talking about creating of knowledge. To what extent are we going to ensure that we advocate for the creation of a particular knowledge that would ensure that the women are able to, as it were, take the bull by the horn, to ensure that they forcefully come together to, as it were, advocate for this particular what we call thing that we're talking about. So for me, it's a multifaceted approach that I think that we should be able to adopt to ensure that we achieve this. Or for me, I think that yes, creation of knowledge, that is very important. But can we also look at a situation where, in terms of the knowledge, where we can rally behind people, even for example, and it is very true. People you would see to have that particular competence to be able to man whatever portfolios within the governance structure are not willing to come out because of a particular stereotype that that is actually being created out there, as if to suggest that if you are a female or if you are a woman, you are always relegated to the second fiddle. That for me is a narrative that I think that in this particular 24th century, we need to nip that particular problem in the bud. A classical example is we have seen women who have been able to come out with certain developmental issues, who have actually led countries, and they are doing very marvelously well. So why is it that within the Ghanaian context, we are not able to ensure or enhance this particular thing? So for me, in order that we are able to achieve this, number one, that particular stereotype that women are akin to the kitchen and all that should be nipped in the bud. We should also encourage women and, of course, financially resource them. Because look, for example, let's say Tamale Central constituency. If a woman, a woman coming from the NDC, for example, who possibly emerges as the parliamentary candidate for Tamale Central constituency, that woman is likely to lose, because even though the political party that she is coming from is a stronghold of the party, of the party within the constituency, but because she is a woman, she is likely to lose because of the stereotype. But to what extent are we able to are we able to advocate for some form of financial support to be able to ensure that such a woman emerges victorious in terms of that particular parliamentary participation? This for me is very, very critical. So there are nuances of issues that actually, doesn't actually augur well for the growth and development of women. for me, this is a typical issue that governance watchers and people of like minds should be averting their minds to. Now, I was mentioning the issue. You have a question for me?
Yeah, no, you have 1 second to wrap up.
Okay, just I will get back to you very shortly. Typical thing that I always find worrying is the fact that even when women emerges at a point in time within the governance structures, we tend to look at them as though they have gone into some kind of what do you call, if you like, some quietus or whatever. I don't want to use the obvious word. And for that matter, such a person is able to go, what's it called, get that particular position because of that particular X factor. That for me is typically unfortunate, and we need to ensure that these particular kinds of negative commentaries, are shelved, because it would not, as it were, augur well for the development and growth of women. For me, these are some of the critical issues that I think that we should be looking at. Hello.
Thank you very much for your thoughts. Yes, we can't do away without finance. Finance is key. Women need finance to run. My youngest on the block, Lisa. Now we've heard a lot. You are a young woman. You are actively involved in political party politics. You are not just an ordinary, you are involved in political party politics. Do you think there's an enabling environment for you to operate as a young woman? Do you find yourself very, welcoming in the space you are? Do you feel connected? Is there something that needs to be done more for you? Eliza, please take over.
Yes, good afternoon, Auntie Esther. All participants here. So let me just say a very big thank you to you. In fact, you've been giving the young ladies a lot of opportunities. Just yesterday, engagement with the media on enhancing women's participation in political parties. Now, from that radio station, when they called in yesterday, like most of the people that called in were men, and the kind of comments they were giving, you could feel that yes, they really want the women to come into the scene because they've seen our impact in the homes. So if we can do much in the house, how much more if they give us the opportunity to do more outside? The world is certainly going to be a bigger place. Now, with the issue of political involvement, I am a young lady vibrant in politics, especially in the northern region, northeast, and then upper east. Politically, I am from upper east, and most of my political activities I do it in northeast and then the northern region. Now, as at a point in time, I almost gave up because I felt like, wow, this politics is not going to be easy. It is not easy. You see, some of the things that we face, honestly, it's not easy. We are trying to come out. We want to do it, but the environment is these the obvious one.
Hello. I think we are losing Eliza
So
because of the internet connectivity.
yes, I'm here, Auntie Esther. Can I continue?
Yes, yes, please continue.
Can I continue?
Yes, yes, please continue.
So as I was saying, if you want to stay in politics, if you want to be relevant in politics, then you have to be confident, you have to be resilient, and you just have to have your principles right. The men will come for you, the words will come, all the unpalatable words, it will come. But you will just have to know that these are some of the things they are trying to do to gag me or to cage me somewhere. Look, the era of the woman being in the kitchen or in the home has passed. We have moved to a certain stage. We need to get adapted to that stage. We don't have to remain in the past. We are fighting for something. And this affirmative action bill, like I hear a lot of people saying that if they pass this bill, we will have a lot of women occupying positions, and that is an undeniable fact. But the issue is, until when is this bill going to be passed? We don't know yet. So you see, we have to show interest. We have to come out. If the pressure is so much, they would give us attention. If not, the bill will just continue being at the cabinet level and it will not go anywhere. Just look at the ended NPP delegate Congress. How many women out of 46 aspirants? I mean, 49. We have only 6 being women. So you could see that the number at that the number is woefully inadequate, and the few women that are showing interest politically, there are a lot of factors that are deterring us. We don't easily penetrate. We don't get that kind of support. People are there that are willing to support you, yes, but it will take just a strong woman to stay in politics, to be relevant in politics.
Lisa, thank you very much. Thank you very much for you. I think you've just said exactly what's on my mind. Yes, the issues are there, but we still have to be in there whilst we await the affirmative action. So I'm coming back to my earlier speakers, Shamima and Abigail and all. I think we've taken much of your time. I want us to have a way forward. What's the way forward for us? From all the presentation, it shows that we are making progress. A lot still needs to be done. What is the way forward? How can we continue to work towards achieving this freedom that we want, so that next year we can say that we have made some more gains a year on? I think I'll start with Abigail.
Thank you very much, Esther. I think this is not the first time we are discussing such issues. And I think for the way forward, we need advocacy, like what we are doing now. We need advocacy to break all the barriers, to advocacy to tackle issues that Lisa just spoke about, advocacy to tackle issues Shamima spoke about, and advocacy to tackle issues that our dear brother also spoke about. Secondly, we need legislation. There should be some form of legislation, apart from the fact that we are waiting for the affirmative action bill, which we started way back. Apart from the fact that we are waiting for that, we still need to have some amendments in some of the legislations, especially those governing elections. If we want a quota, if we want a certain, whatever we want, we need legislation to back it. If we want proportional representation, we can't go contrary to what our constitution is saying. And therefore, we need legislation. If it is an amendment or a constitutional instrument or a legislative instrument, whatever. And then we also need training. You have to train the people and let there be good materials before they can do the work that they want to do. And the bottom line also is, when you are given the space to work, let's make impact. The few women that we have up there, if they are able to make any impact in society, if we are seeing what they are doing, then the others, the men, the young men and young women, would also know or have every cause to say, let's push more women into this particular space. So if you are a woman, those there, let's see them as role models, making exceptional impact, so that nobody will fear to try to push other women to join them up there to increase the numbers. I think this is what we're supposed to do for now.
Thank you very much. Great thoughts. Shamima, can we hear your way forward and what you think and all that? Hello, Shamima.
Right, I'm here. Thank you. I think Abigail has touched on a lot of the essential things that needs to be done. But you see, number one is we also need to make some concessions. Okay, all of us who've been in this battle, the pioneer advocates who've been on this journey for God knows how, we, the young activists of today, must realize that if the script doesn't change, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we'll still be bemoaning the same thing, just as some of our seniors, they are burnt out. They are tired of talking about the same things, going to UN meetings every year, going to all these, programs and these workshops every year. And we are still hitting this, roadblocks. I recall, I think a couple of years ago, I was at the CSW 63, and the UN Secretary General was saying that we should push back against the pushback, that there is global pushback against women's rights issues, as statistics had shown some decline. The point is, this is so hard that anytime we let go a little, we take like more steps backwards, because it's always easy to destroy than to build. So we cannot get tired. As for the continuous advocacy, we cannot get tired, because once we get tired and we stop the engagement, we stop the press conferences, we stop the demands, mind you, we're going to, those who wield power already, that's what they want. They are not going to do anything out of the abundance of their heart's generosity, because it's a contested space. It's power. No matter how much we talk about it, if we get parity in parliament, it means some 50 extra men who would have been in are no longer in. That is also the reality that they deal with, and for which reason they're not willing to cede any space. Because no matter how we talk about it, oh, it's not about taking power away from, it is about sharing power. And to share power, some people have to lose that power. And so unless we band together as women, we haven't done that. We haven't mobilized ourselves enough to demand a woman's vote. We are also still too pulled apart by the things that separate us, other than the things that should bind us together, no matter which political party you belong to. So one of the things I think organizations like you, and you're already doing it, is we must not lose sight of the young people. We must go back to the schools. And these young girls must know that they are as smart as the men. You see, we were in General Assembly meetings with young men who had no clue what they were doing. Nobody knows it until you learn it. None of them who are today ministers and deputy ministers, I was in General Assembly meetings with many of them. I heard the quality of their arguments. I saw the booga attitude they use just to hone a skill. Just to hone a skill. So the fact is, you see, we may do, even if you get some of these opportunities on a silver platter, if you don't perform, it is more negative to the cause than if you didn't get it at all. So we must continue, we must target the schools and catch them young. We must have programs for young girls in primary schools. We must engage teachers to encourage leadership. We must encourage school management boards to break this bias of always wanting to appoint a head prefect as female, even as male, I beg your pardon, even when there are smarter girls in that same class, because patriarchy says it is how we have done it. Head boy is always a boy, and then girls prefect, the deputy school prefect, it's a girl. We must engage teacher unions. We must engage school management heads and challenge them to justify that kind of continuous bias against young girls. Because it is when we empower all of them to compete equally, because mind you, if it's about fair competition from primary level, the girls are even outperforming the boys. Go and ask a lot of the schools. You go, whether it's public schools or private schools. I went to a school in Nima to speak. I asked who were topping the class. They told me girls. I went to SOS Tema. I asked who are topping even the traditional subjects, math, science. The head teacher says the girls are topping those things. So why can't they be leaders? Why, in fact, why can't they be? So my thinking is we must really do this work from the basic, so that by the time these girls get into the university, it's a normal thing for them to want to be SRC presidents, for them to want to be hall presidents. They don't cut themselves short, because the university continues to be the fertile ground for grooming people into national politics. Whether you're going to go the school to politics route, or you're going to go from school to work before politics route, they are all justified. You can, if your male colleagues have done it, you can also do it. If it's politics you want to do, you can be a career politician. There's nothing wrong with it. Just make sure that you're learning along the way and adding value along the way, so that when you get the opportunity, you'll be able to make the impact that we all want women to be making, so we can change. The thing to also be aware of, that if we are just focused on the numbers without the agenda, which is one of the challenges. In New York, we're told by the committee chair on this affirmative bill there that it is some of the women who are even against some of the provisions in the affirmative action bill. So the point the lady who spoke before me was making about knowledge is important. We cannot assume that by fact of women going into certain positions, they would understand the agenda that put them there. We are not asking all women to be feminists, because there's always this tendency of reducing the argument of women empowerment to some feminist people who are saying this, that. But the agenda that pushed you there, that allowed for you to be considered, that allowed for universities to, for universities to reduce intake rates, so more girls can come into university because of the historical gap. The agenda that is now saying that because you do not have access and control of resources, let us make it easy for you to come to parliament, so that when you get into that parliament, you cannot forget that agenda. And therefore working to seek the true, liberation of women everywhere else, by releasing opportunities to women everywhere else, by working to ensure that women have access to education, to health, to opportunities for self-growth, that rural women have access to land, to farm, to feed their families, because many rural households are led by women. These facts cannot and must not be lost out on any woman who is seeking to lead. So you owe it as a matter of personal responsibility to educate yourself, to hold your biases very lightly, and to engage the science, engage the data, engage the knowledge, and deepen your, your understanding, so that some of the perceptions we ourselves hold that hold us back, we'll be able to dismantle those perceptions. So we need greater awareness. We need to deepen people's knowledge. We need to be able to attack the various attitudes by deploying all kinds of, methodologies to challenge the negative attitudes. We need to be able to teach people the skill. We can't assume that we know. People must learn these skills, because gender is technical. I always tell people, even media people don't understand what gender is. Gender is technical. It must be learned. It must be taught. To actually do gender mainstreaming, it's a technical subject matter. So people must acquire the skills to do these things, to do gender audits, gender assessment, to be able to ask gender questions of every environment, even at this age, wherever you are going, to be conscious. Your eyes have to be opened to how biases manifest themselves every day within your own household, within the market space, within the workspace. Your eyes have to be opened so that you can challenge biases as and when they are happening live in your environment. You must check yourselves too, because sometimes we reinforce these stereotypes against ourselves, against fellow people. If you're in a position of power or responsibility, how do you assign roles? You know, is the task, do you assign roles based on your own pre-perceived mindset of which gender is able to do something best, when you have not assessed people independently and separately, and, you know, giving people the chance to determine if they can or cannot? News editors will assign women to social issues, cultural issues, and assign men to political issues. That was the history in many newsrooms. Today, thank God, that is changing. Nanaba will tell you how she forced and went to report flood area when her editor didn't want her to go. Do you see it? So we must take personal responsibility for our education, our miseducation, our unlearning process. We must. And we must build the necessary partnerships and alliances with people of like minds, so the agenda can yield the results within our lifetime. Otherwise, we are wasting our time. Thank you, Esther.
Otherwise, we are wasting our time indeed. Lisa, can you conclude for me? Hello, Lisa.
Oh, sorry. I was talking, not knowing I was so mute.
Okay.
Yes. So for me, I would just tell the young ladies that, look, gather the confidence, show yourself, come out, prove your worth. Before a political party will take you serious, you will have to involve yourself in some of the activities that they are doing. If they themselves see the work that you are doing, they will come for you. Just recently, I was given an appointment as the national PRO for NPP's Staunch Queens. Is one of the voluntary groups of the NPP. So they have seen what you can do. They know that this person has the potential. If you don't show them that you can do it, if you don't show them your potential, if you don't show them that you are willing to do these things, they will not just come to your home or to your house and fetch you out. So the young ladies that are listening here and those who are outside, I would like to encourage you. Show yourselves, bring yourself out. Look, for the starting, it's not going to be easy. You follow them and go around the places. You would toil so much, but if you keep if you are persistent, if you keep it up, it is not going to end there. They will put you in places that are going to be relevant for you and the society at large.
Lisa, you have muted yourself, or you are
Oh, I
done.
think I pressed it. I think I pressed it. I was still talking. Yeah, so that is just what I have for our young ladies.
Okay.
And one last advice before I conclude. Make sure that you have your moral principles right. You are disciplined, and discipline is the most important word here. Thank you very much, Auntie Esther, for this opportunity. Your organization, GENCED, we thank you very much for giving we the young this opportunity.
Thank you very much for having everybody. In closing, I think my speakers made huge way forward that as an organization and as lovers of gender, we all have to pay attention to. We talk about awareness creation, legal issues, structural changes that has implication on gender. So it means that we need some sort of legal reforms. We need to advocate for this kind of reforms to be done. We need to also advocate for more young girls to lead in schools and having a gender as agenda. At the AU level, they have what we call GMAC, Gender is My Agenda campaign. So the gender has to be on agenda, not only us looking at the numbers, but we also have to look at how the numbers is impacting. These are brilliant thoughts. And I mean, the foundation of it all is what Shamima mentioned earlier, data-driven advocacy that has to do with research. It's more powerful. So on that note, thank you very, very much for your time. And the recommendations are so solid. And I guess all of us who are in this space are going to continuously to work towards making the system more friendly and more enabling for women and then young women. But to go, I've just seen a question that was asked on Facebook, and from Fauziatu. Fauziatu is talking about money in politics, that is making it difficult for women at the community level to even participate and the national. Fauzia, yes, it's a problem. I think the recommendation given, it's part of it. We all need to advocate against money politics. We need to let the constituents know that you don't need to collect money from people to vote. You are voting based on issues. You are voting based on things that will help your future, not based on 2 cities or 1 city somebody's giving you present. So I think also in terms of the electoral process, I think at the district level, it's not, the money issue is a bit less because everything is basically supported by the Electoral Commission. And so yes, at that local level, the money situation is less. But yes, still we need to include more advocacy on this conversation and let the populace know why they are voting for their leaders, not to collect small pennies just for today to destroy their future. Thank you very much for joining us on Facebook and all our online platform. We wish you a very good evening. Thank you very much. So thank you to my panel. And thank you to the guests who also joined us on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Esther.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.